let's start. Now, first thing that I will like to project here is that you all know that we live in data age, right? And what problem we face here is it is very difficult to measure total volume of data that is getting stored electronically, right? With applications like Facebook, Google, and so many applications which are there around us, it becomes very difficult to estimate the size. And if you see total growth by 2011 in terms of size of data was around 10-fold, fold you say, as compared to 2006. Now it is around 2.8 data bytes which is being handled. Now this flood of data actually, which is not only coming from one source where enterprise used to collect their own data, now concept has become where data is being coming from diversified sources. And if an enterprise depends only on data of their own, they are not going to survive anymore, because lots of analytics is being done on data and lots of business is being pulled from that analytics which is being done on data which is getting collected from diversified sources. Now this actually created a problem in industry, that is volume of data is growing. Are our hardware and software growing with the same pace? This was the first thing that actually need to be analyzed by us in order to understand that what actually makes us move to technologies like big data and Hadoop, right? So if you see, there is information explosion. Now in terms of volume, in terms of variety, when we say variety, it's not only structural data now. If you see Facebook kind of applications, daily many bytes of data is being uploaded in form of images, right? Now those images are becoming useful piece of information for Facebook and rest of the companies also who are interested in that. So if you see, volume is increasing, variety is increasing, with the rate or with the speed with which data is growing, that is also increasing. So if you see, there is threefold growth in terms of volume, in terms of velocity, in terms of you say variety of data which is growing. Where is the gap now? Gap is, are we able to measure the volume of the data that is being stored electronically? When it comes to second problem which is there is flood of data coming from diversified sources. Do we have any analytical tool which can merge and which can analyze the data? Then third is volume of data being publicly made available every year is being growing. When it comes to organizations, they cannot merely exist on their own data. Success in future will definitely be dictated to a large extent by ability to extract value from organizations or other organizational data. This is what is something which need to be addressed here, right, in this particular thing, in this particular session. Now you can participate in the discussion. This is something which is not technical. It is something which is problem. Yeah, Srikanth is saying data mining. Fine, you do data mining, but you have to think of several other aspects which I am going to pitch in now, and then you provide me the solution whether data mining satisfies it or not, right? So if you see, you have a good news here. That good news is big data is there, right? Means we have ample of data, flood of data, right? But bad news is what? All organizations are struggling to store and analyze it. Right? Even if you go for data mining, storage is important, analysis of the data is important, right? So this is what something we need to address here. With this slide only we will address. This slide will tell you what actually we are discussing. Now, the problem with when it comes to handling big data was storage capacity of hard drives were increased massively, right, over the year, because much was not required, much technical was you say inputs were not required in order to increase the storage capacity of the hard drive. But problem was there in the rate at which the data was read from the drives. It means there was a big gap in terms of hard drives increasing capacity and in terms of rate at which data can be accessed, right? So problem is addressed. You will increase the volume which your hard drive can store, but unfortunately with the same pace you cannot keep on increasing the rate of transfer, you say, right, or rate of reading the data from the device, you say. This is what was the problem. There was the gap, right? Now I expect you to suggest me something after I frame this problem. my hard drive has 1 terabyte data and I'm invoking a process to read the data, right? See the first scenario. Now I'm coming to the second scenario. I have a hard drive of 1 terabyte. In that I divided data into 100 small data sets, and instead of one process accessing it, I'm using 100 processes to access it. Now can you tell me where actually access speed will be faster? Rahul? Obvious. So can I say that we got the solution? Now what is the solution? Create data sets, identify capacity of the system, that how many processes or process threads can be invoked in order to read the data. So we identified, okay, 100 threads, right? So we got the solution. Solution is, instead of keeping one chunk of data and one process accessing it, why not to divide it into n number of chunks and start n number of processes depending on the capacity of the system and where each process is reading the data, right? So this was the solution which actually was suggested by us, right? Yeah, I'm coming to that, Jay Srinivas. Bottleneck, we are coming, we are discussing problems on that also, right? Now, if you see, probable solution that we got here is, it can be framed in this way. It takes time to read all data on a single drive, and writing is even slower, right? So now what we will do is, instead of keeping data, and definitely failure also, right? Bottleneck is one HDD. If it fails, what happens to data? So what we are going to do there is, we are going to divide the data into n number of disks, and now we are going to invoke processes where each process is accessing one disk of optimum size. So there, this bottleneck of single HDD will get eliminated. Is that clear? Fine. So now what is the pattern that we move to? I am not going to store data in one disk. I am going to store data in a number of disks. I am not going to use only one process to read. I am going to invoke a number of process threads in order to read the data, right? So this was the idea or ideology which actually can be applied in order to fill the gap where storage capacity is increasing but disk is, storage capacity is increasing but rate of transfer is not increasing, right? Now second problem, stripping data is pattern that has in existence for a while, right? Right, Srinivas. Let's not use too much technical term as of now, right? We will do all that later, right? I'll frame all this whatever I'm talking in terms of technology also, but as of now I'm trying to reach to the problem where we can say that, okay, Hadoop is the right solution for it, or we can say we can extract features of Hadoop. Now as you pointed out, Srinivas, that there is problem in case if one hardware fails, then what? Right? Now in order to address that problem, you have solution, that is RAID, right? Have redundant array of disks, have a replication policy so that data gets replicated to many pieces of hardware instead of being at one place, right? So you can say I can use RAID in order to add reliability in terms of loss of data whenever there is system failure. Fine, right? So this can be the solution. Now if you see here, another problem we are forgetting, and that is what? My data is divided into n number of disks now. Now when I will read the data, I will have another challenge of combining the data also, right? I have to combine the data in the same way the data was read from one disk. We have to ensure that it's not that we are combining data from one disk which is coming and from other disk which is coming, and it is not following the right pattern. So there will be no value of the data because data itself has been clubbed up, right? So this is what is the second problem. First problem, failure. We can target that failure by adopting some kind of replication policy. But second is what? Data that we are reading must be properly organized so that proper meaning can be extracted from there, right? Fine. How to resolve it? Now, if you see, in order to resolve it, it's one of the big challenge actually. When data is coming from various distributed systems and it allows you to combine data from multiple sources. And if you are not doing it in proper way, you will have a problem. So here, someone called as MapReduce, right? I'm confused. Don't confuse Malika. See, I'll tell you. Very simple. Assume that you have data in 10 disks. You are reading that data. Fine. Now, it's not necessary that data when you recollect at other end may be there in the same sequence, right? So you need to ensure that you are having a reliable system who is ensuring that meaning of the data is not changing when it is being organized or when it is being projected in 10 different disks with objective of increasing the rate of read, right? That's what is the problem. In order to resolve that problem, why can't we write some algorithm which can handle it? Because you are confused, but people who wrote algorithm to ensure that if you are using technology or big data, we are providing you an programming model which will help you actually to reduce or which will ensure that that problem of disk read, write and transforming it into a computation set is abstracted from you. Fine. So what we need now? We need two important components to address the entire problem. First component that we need here is a smart data storage system. And second thing that we need here is a smart programming model which ensures that complexity is hidden from us. Right? And this actually gave birth to Hadoop. So you can say I'm not talking in terms of history of Hadoop. I'm just telling you what Hadoop is now. And believe me, definition is there with us. Hadoop is equal to reliable storage plus efficient programming language. Right? So you see, storage is something which we are going to set up storage and all. So you need not worry. So you can say in one line that when we talk about Hadoop, it is combination of two components. One is a distributed file system which will ensure that whatever we have discussed, the data is present on many hardware, that is taken care by this distributed file system which we are calling as of now as smart storage. And second, in order to reduce complexity of getting the data or combining the data which is coming from multiple sources in right way, we are going to use a programming model, a pattern which is already present called as MapReduce. So can we say now that Hadoop is equal to smart distributed file system plus a smart programming model, right? So if you see now what Hadoop is going to offer us, it is very simple. It's going to offer us a file system that is going to provide various architectures to organize our data, taking advantage of multiple nodes, multiple blocks, multiple data sets. Plus, it is going to provide us a programming model called as MapReduce, which is going to abstract the problem from disk read and write and then going and transforming it into a computable value. Okay. So if you see, MapReduce is smart programming model, right? And when I talk about that file system, it is HDFS. So if you see, we have two components. One is HDFS, second is MapReduce. Now MapReduce, if you see, is the programming model. We are going to use Java. Apart from Java, we can use other languages also. In Java, it will provide you interfaces that will help you to actually do the task, simplifying things from you, talking to the HDFS and collecting the data from there. Right? So if you say, we can say that there are two parts of computation in this map reduce. Very simple to understand if you see. Map, which is key value pair, right? In other words, you can say, okay, fine. This map reduce is going to get me the data in form of key value, right? And reduce is going to ensure that our task of mixing becomes easier. This is the reason why it is called as map reduce. Is it clear to everyone? Simple. The task when we will do, it's like map, it's like hash, whatever you want. Task that we are going to do here is we are going to simplify understanding, and whatever case studies are required in industry, we are going to cover it. So we need not worry about that. We'll be leaving something. So if you see, if I say what Hadoop is for you, this is the reason why we cannot follow a fixed presentation. We have to write few things. Reliable shared storage, right? And terminology that is used is HDFS, right? This is one plus map reduce. This provides analysis system. When we say analysis system, this is the programming model, right? So as a developer, I'll be using MapReduce, and as an administrator, to certain extent, you can say, I'll be setting up my storage. Is that clear? HDFS, yes. It's clear. Murli, you wanted to ask something on HDFS. I'll be coming to that. Since we have to cater need of many people, we have to take one by one. Is that clear? Right. So now let me write in terms of layman. Features of Hadoop. Features of Hadoop is what? Reliability. Why reliability? Because HDFS provides you a mechanism to take care of failovers which may occur in your systems, right? So HDFS architecture has been designed keeping in mind that data is very important. We cannot, yes, security also, Malika. We cannot just go and keep data in order to have high rate of access, but we need to ensure that data is not getting lost also, right? That is what is first thing. Second, supports diversified data. Now when we talk about RDBMS, RDBMS is structured. You will have fixed number of columns. But when we talk about big data, data that you are going to mine will not always be structured. You need to handle n number of different type of data which is not structured at all. For example, images, photos, sound, right? Yes, Srinivas, that is a better term that we have to use is replication. And please understand, replication comes with a cost. We are looking for more reliability. We are looking for faster access, right? So in this case, we have to shell out dollars, or we have to shell out money, right? So storage is not a concern when we are going with the system. Our concern is how fast we can make things available. For example, when we go with Google search, now Google search wants to optimize its search engine. Now, how it can optimize its search engine? By ensuring that whatever keyword user is typing, it hits n number of data sets to ensure that maximum data is getting picked up from those data sets within those number of milliseconds or nanoseconds. And Google will not mind spending for it because they are there in market because of this feature, fast search. And believe me, internally, whether it is Google, Yahoo, Facebook, and n number of other companies, all of them are using Hadoop architecture. Yes, they have tuned it as per their need. They have given it their own flavor, but it's Hadoop in some or other way. Contributed by Apache to these people where they customize it and they make their own Hadoops. Right? But concept is going to be common. Right. Now what I will do is quickly, since all of us are aware about RDBMS, I will quickly just go and prepare something where things becomes clear to you in terms of what is basic difference between traditional RDBMS that we use and Hadoop along with MapReduce that we are talking about. Please understand one thing, when we say Hadoop, you have to always say Hadoop is equal to HDFS plus MapReduce, right? So whatever I am talking here, I am talking from perspective of HDFS plus MapReduce. We will be taking up, you will be taking this up later. No, Malika, see, Hadoop is open source, right? So you can go and you can refine it as per your need. That's what those people have done, right? Now, if you see, is that like class? It is not? It is class, yes, because Hadoop is written in Java. Obviously, it is a class, but it is open source. So you will have access to .java files. You can go and you can extend it. You can go and you can change it, right? Fine. So I was talking from perspective of what is the basic difference when actually we have to go for Hadoop. Consider following things: data size. If you are still working on in gigabytes, please go ahead with traditional RDBMS. But if your data increases by petabytes, Hadoop is going to be important because search will be really intensive in case of huge data. Now, if you see access, you want in-time response, right? So, in other words, your requirement is interactive. Now, for interactive, please go with database. But if you want to process your request in form of batches, Hadoop is better choice. Now when it comes to updates, frequent updates, right? In case of frequent updates, Hadoop is not good choice. Hadoop is preferred when you have following scenario: write once, read many times, right? Now when it comes to structure, what is the structure of data that we will be handling? In case of database, structure is static because you create tables there, you define structure there. But in case of Hadoop or in case of scenarios where you are getting data from diversified sources, you cannot have a static predefined structure. So for that, you can say for dynamic schema requirements, you will go with Hadoop. And integrity, you need integrity. Who will answer? What do you mean by integrity? Integrity of data. One view, right? Consistency, yes, you can say acid property in short. Atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability. If you need this, then better is to go with RDBMS because integrity is low in case of Hadoop. Okay? Yeah. Then comes scaling. Now, in case of RDBMS, when you go with scaling, it is non-linear. In other words, you can go with having horizontal clusters. But in case of Hadoop, it is linear. right? So if you see, these are the things that you have to keep in mind when you go and try to get a decision or try to take a decision whether I should go with Hadoop or I should go with RDBMS. Srikanth, security is a concern which we will be handling in detail. See, when we go and set up our architecture using Hadoop, we consider security. So there we can go with SSH or OpenSSL. There are various security providers in our architecture which we can use. Okay, so security is one of the aspects that we are going to handle specifically. We'll be configuring our own OpenSSL, and we'll see how actually SSL can be used when there is handshake. Okay. Now there are few things that we have to additionally remember. First is, when we talk about relational data, you will find that normalization is a term that comes into picture. An objective of normalization is integrity and removal of redundancy. That's what is objective. But when it comes to normalization on Hadoop, specifically MapReduce, it creates problem, right? Because objective of Hadoop is first of all dynamic schema, then fast high speed streaming of read and write. So when this has to be done, normalization will go and slow up your system. You might have experienced in RDBMS. The more you do normalization, speed of access becomes less, because queries that you will be executing now will contain more joins. Okay, so normalization here may give you side effects which probably will be a problem for you. It's clear? So now if I say, can you tell me what Hadoop is and when actually Hadoop can be used? Very simple answer. Hadoop is equal to HDFS. It's a reliable distributed file system which can be configured in various architectures in form of cluster, in form of a standalone node. Second important component of Hadoop is MapReduce, which takes responsibility of ensuring that complexity of analysis is hidden from you by providing you interfaces in Java, in Python, in Ruby, so that you can go and you can write programs there in order to get the data. You need not worry about reconstructing the structure. Second important question that we have to answer is, in what scenarios we have to go with Hadoop? Data size, access, updates, structure, integrity, and scaling. These are the factors which you will be using in order to decide whether you should go with Hadoop or you should not go with Hadoop. Okay, is that clear? If you have any questions, you can ask me. Right. So as I told you initially, you may, when I also started working out with it, I felt uncomfortable because brain was to work with structured data. But now you say we are a bit comfortable in handling unstructured data as well. So now giving it a look, MapReduce, HDFS, HBase will not touch as of now. Scalable, economical, efficient, reliable, these are the features which are there for everyone. Now Hadoop is equal to reliable shared storage plus MapReduce. Writing classes, yes Srikanth. Java is classes, interfaces, methods. Only this is what we need. Okay. If you want to access your data using REST, we can better REST, right? So it depends like who is the client and what is the client, web service is the client or non-web service client. So it depends on that. Right now, what actually Hadoop does? Hadoop implements Google's MapReduce, right? So this is what is the analytical tool or programming model which was started by Google in order to implement their first of all we are discussing about Hadoop structure, and then obviously we will be talking about you can type in if you have any confusion. On mute. Yeah. MapReduce divides application into a smaller block of work. HDFS creates multiple replicas of data block for reliability, right? So we will see. Yeah.
I just need to ask you a question. It means that if you don't have the skills in Java, so you cannot work in Hadoop, right?
No. You can see, it depends. You are working on administrative or you are working on development. See, development for writing client to Hadoop, who is going to, or basically you can say for writing MapReduce, using MapReduce. You can use any other language, as I have been telling you. You can use C++, you can use Java, you can use Ruby, you can use Python. But yes, some language is required in order to uh, develop code for Hadoop. Is that clear? Okay. So if you see here, HDFS creates multiple replicas. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to set up our HDFS, right? We will set up our HDFS in 2 different modes after doing all installations and all, as I told you, in 3 different operating systems. MapReduce can then process the data where it is located. Hadoop's target is to run on cluster of the order of 10,000 nodes. Right. So if you are working on a huge range of or scale of data where you feel that you don't have control over structure of data, or data is unstructured, you can go and you can create a map with key value and then reduce the complexity by using reducer interface. So you can say you will have a mapper interface, you will have a reducer interface, right? So we'll be looking at that. You need not worry. Fine. Now if you see assumptions, when Hadoop was written, it was written keeping in mind large clusters of computer and built around following assumptions. So this itself will tell you that actually why do we need Hadoop? Hardware will fail, problem, always. Processing will be run in batches. Why can't we run in parallel? Thus there is emphasis on high throughput as opposed to low latency. Application that runs on HDFS has large data sets. A typical file in HDFS ranges to gigabytes to terabytes. So this will allow us to process actually petabytes. It should provide high aggregate data bandwidth and scale to hundreds of nodes in a single cluster. It should support 10 of millions of files in a single instance. So all these assumptions were there, which were found by Google's people, because they felt that until and unless this is not done, they are not going to be able to manage the kind of search which users are asking them to do. Right? Now, if you see, application needs a write once, read many access model. Moving computation is cheaper than moving data. Right? So instead of moving the data, why can't we go and use map and reduce and do analytics of data? Right? So change your algorithm to read the data. Let data be present in diversified environment. Instead of doing transformation in the data layer, do it in your analysis layer or analytics layer. This is what was the objective, right? So if you see, Srinivas, I'll provide you the access. Now if you see Apache Hadoop, Yahoo and Google, they will always fight, right? So Google was doing their own test on their own Hadoop, modified Hadoop, and Yahoo was doing its own test, right? So they actually created a record, and that record was around, you say, reading or sorting of 1 terabyte of data in 209 seconds. Later, Google came up with some 100 seconds, and finally Yahoo came up with 59 seconds. So if you see now, 1 terabyte of data can be managed in 59 seconds. You can sort it in 59 seconds. So this is what is one of the advantages that you got. But yes, they have modified, they have created their own architecture using Hadoop. So what we have to do, we have to also sit and calculate that this is what is the nature of processing or read we need, how many Hadoop nodes or how many master nodes, how many process nodes we need. That is what we have to decide, and we will be deriving that formula shortly. Now these are some of the applications which are already using Amazon, Yahoo, AOL, Facebook, right? There are various companies who have already adopted this file system. Now, if you see, you have Hadoop, HDFS, you have MapReduce, but apart from that, if anything is placed in open source category, immediately you will find a web of assisting tools cropping up around it. So we have to do what? In this training, we are going to select some of the smart tools which are used everywhere in order to handle various aspects of HDFS. So if you see, you have some of them which are there: context web to store and serve log and use it as a source for optimization. Yeah, ask.
Niranjan, what about as you told us that, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but if you will type, I will be able to get it better.
Okay. You told me that it is like Apache, right? Or everything is going to be stored in Apache, right?
Yeah.
Hadoop is just a class. It's just for the reliability. It's like the core Java.
Yes, it's not like for Java, but yes. See, programming perspective will be more in terms of analytics, right? Data analytics, right? For example, for example, assume that what is happening is, Akshay, I'll just take up this and we will continue with this, because it's one of the important questions, because primary objective itself is missing in Malika. See, when it comes to MapReduce, now MapReduce implementation is done in Java, its implementation is done in Python, right? So if you want to use this component called as MapReduce, you have to send your request. That request you will be sending using Java or any of the languages.
Okay.
Right? So assume you are right.
Are we also using the concept of the linked list over here as well? Data structure?
Yes, if you understand data structures, not in terms of binary trees and all at that level, but yes, in terms of storage, in terms of architectures, in terms of cluster, in terms of data set, in terms of that, it is always better. And you need not worry, because we will be talking about all that.
So Niranjan, I have a question.
Yeah.
So is this MapReduce mean that something is already there and we are writing the Java code or anything only to send our requests?
See, if you see, MapReduce is programming model, right? So
Right.
it will have engine. MapReduce is a programming model. You can say it will have an engine. Hadoop will run MapReduce programs, which are written in various languages. Okay, so you can say MapReduce is specification, which has been implemented and libraries has been provided in different languages, right? So
Okay.
you can write your code in Java, you can write your MapReduce code in Ruby, like you say JDBC code or JMS code. Now here we will start saying MapReduce code.
Okay.
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 So
It's something like an API which is already existing.
yes, right. Okay.
So, thank you.
So the framework is already defined, right? This Bala.
Yes.
Okay.
Fine.
So we are following basically the data mapping over here.
Yeah.
We are basically following the data mapping. We are trying to reduce our data mapping. In data mapping, we mostly match each and everything.
No, you don't take it at that context. Take it in this context. You have diversified of data. Your requirement is read should be very fast, because I have some nanoseconds in which I have to reply back to the client with the data, and that data is coming from various sources. You will go with this. Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Fine. Okay.
And basically the linked list code, the data structure. I'm following that thing. I have already studied that before.
Okay, great. Fine. Now, if you see MapReduce programming model developed at Google, you can use any language, right? Python and all, also Ruby, C++, Java, so many choices are there. Now, initially it was intended only for internal search engines. But later, when they saw that enterprises are coming very near to each other and they are ready to share data with each other in order to grow their business, they felt that now we have to externalize concept of our search engine and bring that concept where adopt a particular programming model or provide features of our search engine programming model so that we are able to get the value data faster following probably the same concept, right? So if you see, when we say map reduce, terminology itself should make things clear. Map is key value, reduce is reducing the complexity of the data, right? So this is what was objective of map reduce. We have some 6-7 specific sessions on map reduce, so we will be discussing about that. Now, just to simplify things, how map reduce works. See, the runtime partitions the input and provides it to different map instances in terms of map key value pair. Now, the runtime collects the key value pair. Now, this runtime is the setup which you will be doing, the container which you will be doing, and distribute. I'll come to Malika once again. We have done what? Assume that stream of data is coming to you. See the challenge. Stream of data is coming to you. You have to have a logic which can convert it to key value pair in form of map, right? That is what will be done by mapper. Now, once that mapper has done the task, then the runtime collects the key value pair and distributes them to several reduce functions so that each reduce function gets the pair with the same key, right? And then each reduce produces a single or zero file output. Map and reduce are user written functions. So this is something which we are going to run again. See, Srinivas, mapper, your data is coming. For example, assume that we are sending weather information, and what you want to do at runtime, you will like to have only city and temperature at a particular point of time, right? So there, what you can do is you can make city as key and temperature as value. So this becomes one combination of data that you want to hit. Similarly, from that, if you want to have a weekly analysis of the temperature which was there in different part of countries, so there you need to do what? Their map will be different. Country, average temperature, right? So if you see here, with the same data, you are able to play in different ways and you are able to create a map. Right? So this is what is objective of map reduce. You see, it's very simple. Map, string, key, string value.
Excuse me, Naranjan. Before
Yeah.
going further, I just need to have I just needed this general question that was regarding, as you told us about the Hadoop, that in fact you told us that we have to follow the analytical programming. What do you mean by that?
See, as I told you that yes.
We are just developing the software. Okay, we are just working as a developer over there.
Okay.
So why are you saying that analytical programming? What do you mean by an analytical one? Because in Java, I know about the Yahoo, Google, Facebook, whatever the programs are, they are also modified in the Java, in JSP, somehow in JSP as well as in .NET, C#.NET as well.
See, it's the tool that you are using. When you say language, it's the tool that you are using, right? So using that tool, what you are doing makes the difference. Using that tool, when you talk to database, you are doing database programming, right? Fine. When you talk to MM, you are doing JMS programming. So when I say analytics, it's in terms of data being streamed and what analytics you are using in order to quickly get the data of your value.
Dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Fine. So if you see here, these are some of the example applications which it depends whether you have worked with Unix environment or not. You will get it. I'll be discussing about this later also. Now, map reduce fault tolerance. One of the benefits. If you see worker failure, when we talk about setting up a cluster, you will have a master node and you will have worker nodes, right? Now master node's responsibility will be to take care of all worker node, or you say to distribute the task. Once you have submitted your code, it has to be distributed to n number of nodes which are there in your architecture which you have set up using Hadoop, and each worker node will do task. Now MapReduce fault tolerance algorithm, when we talk about, you have two types of failures. One is worker failure, second is master failure. Now in case of worker failure, the master keeps ping every worker periodically. So you have something called as heartbeat. In other words, master will send a token which has to hit successfully to the workers. If there is no response coming, or if there is no handshake being submitted by the worker, it will be assumed that worker is down, right? And any map task which was completed, or task completed by that worker, are reset back to their initial or idle state, and then the same task becomes you say a candidate to be submitted to any other worker which is available, right? So this is what is capability of MapReduce fault tolerance. So now when it comes to master failure, it is easy to make the master write periodic checkpoints of the master data structure. If the master task dies, that is pinging, a new copy can be started from the last checkpoint state. Okay, so if you see, in most cases you have to restart the job if master fails, right? So this kind of capability is there in MapReduce, which we will be working out once we set up any task. Right. So if you see, this is how we will be proceeding, and as I told you that we'll be starting up our first session by setting up Hadoop architecture in standalone and cluster mode itself. So there you will come across more terminologies and more technical you say aspects of Hadoop. Yeah, they are hardware represented by software, Srikanth. Right. So if you see two components, one is SDF, second one is you have to go on mute, otherwise problem will be there. So if you see HDFS now, HDFS is nothing but it's a distributed file system, and we know what is distributed file system. Basic objective of distributed file system is it manages storage across a network of machines. Okay, so it means now you have storage which is split over n number of machines, right? Now since they all are network based, you may face all complications of network programming. Fine. So when we say distributed file system, we may face a certain network programming which makes a distributed file system more complex, right? Now in order to ensure that your file system is not complicated and it is more recoverable, your Hadoop came up with HDFS, right, which stands for Hadoop Distributed File System, right? Now if you see, Hadoop has a general file, you say general type of file system, or you say general file system abstraction, and design of HDFS has been done keeping in mind following things. Very large files. When we say very large file, it is in context of megabytes, gigabyte, terabyte in size. This is what is the nature of files which your HDFS is supposed to have, right? And you have various clusters today which also works with petabytes. Now if you say second important feature is streaming data access. Now what do we mean by streaming data access? If you see, HDFS is built around the idea that the most efficient data processing pattern is write once, read many time pattern. So if you see, this is what is the basis of HDFS. Write once, read many times. Now what it does, what HDFS does is it creates a data set, and this data set which it creates is generated or copied from the source, and then various analysis will be done on that particular data set. So in other words, if I say get the data, let the data be written once. Now after data is written once, create a data set, generate actual copy of data set from the source, and then apply various analysis on the data sets over time, right? So this is what, have the data in your you say in your cluster or in your node 1, and then apply various algorithms to access it.
So Niranjan, will that be this one? Will that be just protected or private just with the HDFS Hadoop?
Protected or private for HDFS? As I told you, as I told you that when you go for Hadoop, these are the components. Like HDFS is something which is a component. Now, without this component, without this file system, you cannot mount your Hadoop, right? Okay. Fine. So I feel you got it. Now, would the data writing takes place via map reduce? You can do that also, Srinivas, because now there are various alternatives which are coming up. It's clear. You can write to the blocks which are created and all. Yeah, we need to define in advance. Okay. Now, if you see basic, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're asking something?
Yeah, I was asking, so it means that we have to define it in advance as a component before starting the program, as we define the classes too. And I think so HDFS, that component should be public for anything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got the idea. Okay, now we have to start. Okay, thank you.
For example, when you install a new operating system, you need to ensure that that operating system has been formatted using the right file system, right? Same is the case here. When you go and build up a Hadoop infrastructure or a system, you need to ensure that you have formatted that particular disk or a part of the disk with this particular file system. Okay?
Yeah, I think so that is not only like the core Java, that is like the advanced Java as well. But somehow, like as we define the threads in that.
Yeah, that's what it is implemented in Java. How internally it is managed, that depends on the product suite that you are using. That depends on the implementation of Hadoop that you are using, right? Now let's come back and be here. We spoke about why actually HDFS became popular. It became popular because of its capability to handle large data, its capability to stream data using various analytics, which you will be doing using MapReduce and the logic that you want to write. Now, when it comes to hardware, Hadoop doesn't require very expensive and highly reliable hardware, right? It is designed to run on cluster of community, that is commonly available hardware, right? Which you can obtain from multiple vendors. It's not necessary that it has to be IBM i-Series or F-Series servers, right? It can be normal hardware also. You can group it and you can create a cluster, right? So if you see, basic objective of HDFS is to carry on work without any interrupts, okay, to the user in case of failure. HDFS has to do adjustments whenever there is failure, ensuring that it is able to provide maximum reliability to the people or to the applications who are actually asking for data. Okay. Now, when it comes to lots of small files, if you see, because when it comes to nodes, which we are going to see in few minutes, you will have you say file system metadata, in memory metadata, and there will be a predefined limit on the number of files in the file system that is always governed by memory on the node on which it is there, right? So as a result of thumb rule, each file, each directory and block takes around 150 bytes. So if you have 1 million file, each taking one block, you need 300 MB of memory, right? So in order to ensure that it is made visible, they came up with aligning themselves with the current hardware or whatever hardware is being used to mount this particular operating system or this file system, right? So we'll talk more on this, but now what we will do, we will just go and try to understand what actually are different components which are there in HDFS, right? We'll be setting up all this, so you need not worry. Now, if you see block, here you have n number of blocks, right? Now, if I ask you what is a block, this is the smallest unit. This is the minimum amount of data which can be read or written. So this is what is for file system for a single disk built on by dealing with data blocks, right? So you will divide it into n number of blocks. So nodes will have what? N number of blocks, right? And this is what is the smallest unit which we can consider. Now comes to a very important one, and you can clearly see here you have named node and you have data nodes. Yes, JP, Srinivas, it is. Okay, right? You have name nodes and you have data nodes. So typically in an HDFS cluster, you will have two types of nodes, which works in, you say, master worker pattern. You have a named node which we consider as master, and then you have a number of data nodes which we consider as worker, right? So you see blocks are there, name node is there, and data nodes are there. Data nodes are workers. Okay. Now, who manages the file system? It is name node. He manages the file system. Actually, he maintains the file system tree and the metadata for the files and directories which are there in the particular tree. Fine. Now, this particular information, which is config information, which is there in name node, is called as metadata, and this metadata is persisted on a local disk, right? And that persistence can be done in two different ways. One is it is done in form of edit log, and second is it is done in form of namespace image, right? So all these terminologies we will be actually revisiting. I'm just giving you an idea. So if someone is asking you, tell me HDFS architecture, you can clearly say that it contains three different units. One is block, second is name node, which is the master node. Then you have n number of data nodes. So if you have to set up your cluster, you need to ensure that you are following steps in order to set up name node, in order to set up data nodes, in order to specify the blocks and specify things in that particular configuration, right? It's clear. So if you see, basic objective here is whenever a client accesses the file system, when we say client, please don't take it as an end user, right? It's an application. Now the client accesses the file system on behalf of the user, communicating with the name node and data nodes, right? It's clear. Now, second important thing, client need not know where data is, whether it is there in data node or it is present in your name node itself. Okay, it's clear. Now, one big question: can a client directly target a data node? Yes, why not? Yes, JP, Srinivas, good question. It can talk. Okay. Now, when a client wants to read data, they can talk to data nodes. Only thing is, if they are talking through name node, in case of failover and all, he'll be getting the data from the replicated data nodes. Okay. It's clear. Fine. Now you have two different architectures, because you know, in this architecture, you know, if this name node goes down, which is master node, entire system will go down, right? So you can have two name nodes, and both can be master, and you can have various algorithms, active, passive, in order to ensure failover, right? So this is how actually your HDFS architecture works. As I told you that I'll be taking up in detail. Now coming to installation and all that, I told you that I'll be doing it in first session along with you to ensure that my system and your system, all of us are having common architecture so that we can start working with clients. Now what we are going to do is we are going to divide our Hadoop module in 3 different parts in order to make people market ready. First is Hadoop core, where we will be talking about HDFS, right? Second, MapReduce. So using MapReduce we'll be writing logic. So it's not that complicated, Malika. You have to because when we talk about products, right, steps are predefined in order to set it up. Only thing is now MapReduce and all components you have to work a bit. So that will make life simple. You are taking it too complex. Don't take it too complex. It's easy. Second will be essential components, where we are going to talk about these following components: Apache Pig, a platform for creating data flow program that can be compiled into sequence of MapReduce programs. So for you, Malika, Pig is again a better choice, right? Then you have Apache Hive, a tool for creating higher level SQL queries using HiveQL, and this can also be compiled into MapReduce programs. So you have a number of tools. You don't worry about complexity. Apache H Catalog, a metadata abstraction layer that insulates user and script from how and where data is physically stored. So once you know how to use all these tools, it will be easy for you to work at enterprise level. Then comes Templeton, as I told you, provides a set of REST-like API for H Catalog and related Hadoop component. Right. So we'll be seeing configurations and all, how to do, how to install, how to work with all these components. This is what is part 2. Part 3 is supporting components. Now in this supporting components, we are going to work with monitoring Hadoop installation, connecting to Hadoop with large compute environment. We are going to work with Apache OZ and Apache Scoop. Now this provides a component of mechanism of moving data between HDFS and external structured data stores, and Apache Uzi, a server based workflow engine which is optimized for running workflow that executes Hadoop jobs. So these are going to improvise our existing Hadoop knowledge, right? And just a matter of news to you, you don't worry, because after a period of time you will find Hadoop capabilities will be built in your RDBMS also, because Hadoop is coming very closer to RDBMS or to use RDBMS software. In fact, work is already going on, and n number of open sources are already there in testing. Right. So these are the 3 components or 3 different cores that we will be discussing. Is this clear? Fine. So for installation and all, as I told you that we'll be doing it together, I will share some document with you. You have to ensure that all those components are downloaded and they are there part of your they are there in your systems. Like if you see here, all these softwares are needed, and specifically versions, because you are going to use Eclipse when it comes to Java development. So probably recent versions are not supporting, or there are some plugin issues. So I'll be guiding you which Eclipse you have to use and all. Then you need to have, if it is a Windows machine, you need to have Cygwin, because this is what will be used here in order to launch your Eclipse console, so that you can go ahead and you can use Hadoop based commands and all once it is installed. So I'm not doing installation here as of now, because that is what I have planned to do it in first session, right? So you have to just right. So it launches this, and then we have to go and copy. I'll be telling you step by step. You need not worry on this. I will ensure that it is installed and setup is ready on all machines. Just ensure that if you want to do it on Linux, and if you don't have Linux, have a partition or do installation of Linux. But what I support is, or suggest is, better is to go on Linux only, because in production you will be using Linux. You will be working on Linux. Windows will provide you just development simulation. You will not get the actual feel of Hadoop and Hadoop cluster if you are working on Windows. So you have to take the call and tell us, because normally we do it on all three, Mac as well as Windows and Linux, but we prefer Linux because there is what production Hadoop lies. So you have to take the call. If you want to have both of them, let's have a partition on system or have a Linux PC, you can do there also. I'll be connecting to you using WebEx, and we'll be doing their debugging or installation issues if they are there. In case if your program will also not execute, we will connect to your machine and we will be sorting it out. We have a blog through which we are in always touch 24/7. We are accessible to you in need. So if you have any questions now, you can ask.